story of the godlike superstar talent rising to the top, but then crashing and burning, is as old as football itself. Special gifts, rare ability, you name it, but it's more of an NFL type of story than it is college, unless your name is Spencer Rattler. Rattler was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school where he became the only quarterback to ever throw for more than 11,000 yards. After sitting a year behind Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma, he definitely lived up to the hype. During the wonky COVID year, he led the Sooners to a 9-2 record while throwing for 3,030 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, and heading into last season, he was the unanimous Heisman favorite over everybody else in the nation. But then they started playing football. While statistically Rattler was still decent, his completion percentage climbed all the way to 75%. Unfortunately, so did his interceptions and fumbles. All of a sudden, Oklahoma started narrowly squeaking out wins instead of blowing teams out of the water, and then in the Week 6 Red River Showdown, that's when everything absolutely crumbled. Rattler was benched midway through the second quarter after a couple of disastrous turnovers and falling behind 35-17. Did it help his cause that his replacement Caleb Williams came back, and won the game 55-48? Absolutely not. Rattler never started another game for Oklahoma. After transferring to South Carolina, his college and NFL prospects are still very much alive, but how in the hell does one of the most gifted players in college football fail this epically? Today, that's exactly what we're going to answer, but before we do, I want to give a huge thank you to Built Bar for making this episode possible. Built Bar has created a protein bar that is equal parts healthy as it is delicious. Each bar has just 130 calories, 6 grams of fiber, and 17 grams of protein, plus it's gluten-free, no preservatives, keto-friendly, and more. And in terms of the taste, mouth-watering. Each of their delicious 18 flavors are wrapped in a smooth layer of chocolate, and the taste, it's sublime. Built Bars are one of my go-tos at any time of the day for any kind of activity, like before work, during work, after a workout, just a snack, or even for dessert. They're great for everything. My favorite flavors have been the coconut and the salted caramel, but legit every flavor I've tried has been great, and I keep ordering more. To check them out, Built Bar ships boxes right to your doorstep, and when you order, you can customize a box to get exactly what you want, or you can order just one flavor, or you can get a 12-bar mix box to try a bunch of different stuff. To get 10% off any order, just use my coupon code ALEXNFL10. Okay, so what made Lincoln Riley say, it's time to bench this guy? On the surface, it was definitely the turnovers. Rattler had 5 interceptions in 5.5 games and a handful of clumsy fumbles, but it does go much deeper than that. Riley has consistently churned high-end production out of his quarterbacks, with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray winning Heismans, and then Jalen Hurts resurrecting his career. So the lack of production and functionality of the offense was the most frustrating for the coach. He's known for scheming up defenses and creating wide-open looks for his quarterback, but Rattler struggled to play within structure and would even create turnovers all by himself, leaving some of Riley's perfectly schemed plays completely wasted. Rattler's footwork was terribly inconsistent, leading to inaccuracy and a lack of rhythm, which oftentimes forced him to leave the pocket even when there wasn't pressure, which drove Riley insane. Even here, in the game against Texas where Rattler was benched, on a crazy extend the play, we can see why he likes playing out of structure and why that can lead to inconsistency and often turnovers. 2.5 minutes into the game, Texas is already up 14-0 and are bringing a pretty exotic look on 3rd and 10. My best guess is their defensive coordinator probably calls this nickel even Brady 6 skate, which is a fancy way of saying cover 3 over here with man coverage over here. Most defenses like to push an extra defender to the 3 receiver side, which leaves them weak on the backside one-on-one, and that's good for Rattler because he has a 10-yard curl that's perfect against off coverage. When he sees the linebacker blitzing, he knows he's got that one-on-one backside. Even if this was regular cover 3 where the corner would be bailing into his deep third, the receiver would still be wide open. Quarterbacks are coached to read the hips and positioning of defenders to determine whether or not to throw. So when Rattler sees the corner's hips flip deep expecting the go route, that should be all he needs to pull the trigger. But even with a completely clean pocket, he doesn't take the curl, manages to make an utterly absurd throw up the sideline, which gives us a little glimpse into what kind of talent we're dealing with here, but also why an over-reliance on playing out of structure frustrated Riley and forced him to move on. When Rattler did try to play within structure, he just flat out struggled. His eyes were inconsistent, his feet were all over the place, he played with literally zero rhythm, and at times there was no telling what he was trying to do. Here the Sooners just need 3 yards, and Riley's dialed up spot, a classic NFL concept which consists of a corner route, a spot route, which is just a little sit-down curl, and a flat route from the running back. Rattler is coached to read the curl flat defender who either charges up to the flat exposing the spot route or sits for the spot leaving the flat wide open, but he doesn't whip it to the running back and instead throws into traffic with some sort of miscommunication with his tight ends. Even on just super straightforward concepts that are designed for the QB to simply read 1 to 2, Rattler would create turnover-worthy plays that jeopardize the entire team. This is the Patriot concept that we've talked about a couple of times on this channel, where he's coached to read the curl route outside first, then the Patriot stick, which can sit down against zone coverage, and only take the seam, slot fade if it's there. But with both the 1 and 2 options wide open for the first down against this super soft zone coverage, Rattler tries to break the pocket and almost throws another interception. A couple of minutes later, he tried to extend the play, didn't protect the ball, and fumbled. And that was pretty much the last we saw of him at Oklahoma. So now that we've analyzed why he couldn't play within structure, let's take a look at how Riley tried to compensate, shifted his own offensive philosophy to accommodate this, and why that still didn't work. He had to adapt his entire offense into what basically just became screens and massive deep passes, aka shot plays, usually off play action. The problems with the screens was Rattler wasn't very accurate, so sometimes he'd flat out miss, and other times he didn't really have the timing down, so they'd go for only a couple of yards when they should have gone for more. This constantly set up 2nd and 3rd and long, where Riley would call a lot of these deep shot plays, which weren't so much structure-based as they were asking Rattler to buy time in the pocket till the receiver got open deep, but instead of helping him in the offense, it actually hurt it since Rattler was constantly out of rhythm with poor footwork. This was most evident on one of Riley's calling card concepts, Shallow Sting, which is a deep play-action shot play that requires the QB to buy tons of time. It consists of 2 deep posts to clear out the coverage, and then the key to the concept, a shallow route that turns upfield. With 2 lane playing a form of cover 3 zone, the posts are designed to take away the corner and deep safety to isolate the curl flat defender, but he gains a bunch of depth knowing a ton of these deep shots are coming. He gives up the underneath route, which Rattler really should have hit in the first place, and he jams this puppy in, which is of course ill-advised. This is a good example of some of the underlying issues for this offense, where Rattler's footwork isn't a 5-step drop or a 7-step drop, which would specifically tell him how to time up when to throw the ball, but he's more just gaining ground, almost like it's a Hail Mary, and doesn't have any kind of rhythm to reset to the flat or forward momentum when he finally decides to throw Shallow Sting. Some of the changes Riley felt like he had to make to help his quarterback who wouldn't and couldn't play in structure actually hurt him even more. And there were even times where it was Riley's fault, whether it was a lack of communication from QB to receiver or just flat out bad play design. Here West Virginia is playing cover 3 zone and Oklahoma has the perfect concept in sail, which is usually a 3 receiver combo with a deeper route to clear out the corner, an intermediate sail route, and a flat route to attack underneath to once again put this curl flat defender in conflict. But Riley uses a 7-man protection against just 4 defensive linemen, so there's no underneath threat, meaning the curl flat defender can just gain depth. Instead of the clear out receiver running deep, he for some reason runs a curl, which brings the cornerback into all the action, and he breaks up the throw, and then the unconflicted curl flat defender picks off the pass. Watch this play as if the cornerback was cleared out and wasn't in the area. This is a perfect throw, but based on a lack of communication or just bad play design, Riley's nose wasn't quite so clean throughout this whole Rattler debacle. All of these issues kept popping up over and over throughout those first 5.5 games of the season, and whether it was Rattler bailing out of throws when there were free runners, missing wide open receivers and then running for a couple of yards, missing screen passes which kept the Sooners behind the chains, or throwing hospital balls for guys and watching them get blown the hell up, the season was painful in every sense of the word as he ended it watching from the bench. He quite honestly has one of the most gifted arms that I've ever seen of any college quarterback, but this is a lesson for all of us on how much more there is to the QB position. Footwork, lower body mechanics, mental processing, and more that go into being great. I do think that Lincoln Riley deserves a little more of the blame than the public has been giving him. But looking at his track record, which has multiple Heisman winners over the last several years, it's hard to give him too much of the blame. Some of the best stories in sports aren't about the superstars who start great, play great, end great, but the ones who start great, epically fail, humble themselves, work their asses off, and come back better than ever. Spencer Rattler's transcendent talent has, lucky for him, earned him a second chance. The talent is there. So now, let's see what he is really made of.